Uh, so on behalf of all the association, Gyan Station, Income Tax Bar Association, All Gujarat Federation of Tax Consultant, Gujarat State Tax Bar Association, and Tax Advocate Association Gujarat, I welcome you all on the day two of this webinar series exclusively for Refund. And today we have CA Dr. Vishwesh Shah from AGFTC, who is President of AGFTC. So I would request him to share a few words before we start today's session.
Thank you, Sridhar. I welcome Jaykishan Vidhwani ji, eminent speaker on GST and all the association together with the sharing knowledge and sharing knowledge in the field of GST and a critical subject like GST refund. Jaykishan Vidhwani ji is the master in the case of GST return as per my knowledge. Thank you, Jaykishan Vidhwani ji, for accepting our invitation. Thank you, sir.
So yesterday we learned about the zero rate refund on zero rated supply and also the refund provisions in GST. Now today Jaykishan is going to share about the inverted duty structure as well as the deemed export as per the schedule today. So we will keep the question and answer session at the last. The chat box will be open and Q&A section will be also open to share your questions. And not taking much of the time, over to you, Jaykishan, for starting today's session. Yes.
So, thank you all once again to ITBA, AGFTC, and GSTBA and TAC and GAN Station for providing me this opportunity and continuing the learning of GST refund. So, as we ended on this slide yesterday, that this is how much happiness we get after having GST refund. So today we'll continue for two more areas wherein inverted refund and deemed export refund would be discussed in detail. So starting today's session. So this is the agenda, that inverted duty structure and deemed export refund. So in a nutshell, if we see what is the meaning of inverted duty structure. So inverted duty structure means that rate, GST rate on inputs. Kindly note, it is inputs which is greater than the output supplies. So why I said that you need to note the word input, because capital goods means if your inversion in rate occurs only because of the higher rate of purchase of capital goods or services, then your case won't be fitting in the case of inverted duty structure. Only if the goods or inputs which you are using are at a higher GST rate and your output is at lower GST rate, then it would be allowed. For example, dyeing industry, cloth dyeing, wherein the color chemicals that are the goods are at 18%, while the entire invoicing of the job work is at 5%. So this creates an inverted duty structure. So once again here, that 18% in input and 12% in output, which creates a permanent blockage of credit. So when GST was introduced, its entire objective was the seamless flow of credit. So if the rate of duty are such that it results in the permanent blockage of input tax credit, then it will adversely affect my working capital and business as a whole. Hence, the government has allowed under section 54(3) subsection 2, wherein in case of inverted duty structure, the GST refund is allowed. So section 54(3) reads as that where the credit has accumulated on account of rate of tax on inputs being higher than the rate of tax of output supply, then it will be eligible as refund. Here we need to highlight that no inverted duty refund is allowed in case of nil rated or fully exempt. So continuing with yesterday's example, that unbranded rice. So if unbranded rice is exempt. So if you purchase local packing material or avail some services, and if you supply locally, then the refund you cannot claim as inverted duty because it is a exempt supply. Outward is the exempt supply. If you export the same, then the refund of packing material and the shipping services would be allowed. Second is, the government has kept a right with itself, reserved right, wherein it can block certain commodities, wherein it can block certain commodities if it reserves a right, it can block the items which it does not want to allow as a refund. So there is a list of items which has been notified. This is a list of items wherein woven, fabric, silk, railway items. In this, even if your rate is inverted, you won't be eligible. So this is the notification and circular number, notification number 20/2018, read with circular 56/30. So this list keeps on amending. So if your goods are outward goods are this, then even if you have inverted duty structure, still you won't be eligible for the refund. So inverted duty structure, once again repeating that it is the rate of outward is less than rate of input, rate of outward is less than input, and other than in nil rate or fully exempt supplies. So hence the same will not be eligible for refund. Now what is
to unlock your iPhone?
What is the formula for claiming of refund? Inverted. So maximum refund amount that is eligible is, in short, A into B divided by C minus D into B by E. So the formula is goes as turnover of inverted duty supply, inverted rate of supply of goods and services multiplied by the net ITC divided by adjusted turnover minus the tax payable on inverted supply of goods and services multiplied by net ITC divided by net ITC of input and input services. Now, what is the meaning of this net ITC in particularly this case of inverted duty structure refund? Yesterday we have seen the zero rated supplies wherein A into B by C was the formula. So B was net ITC. Net ITC we were excluding the capital goods ITC, and because they were not eligible for refund. Similarly, in this case, particularly the refund of inverted duty structure, we need to exclude the ITC of input services also and capital goods also. So distinguishing factor is the ITC of input services. So whatever services you received falling under chapter 99, the same would be not eligible as refund. Now this formula is that whatever is your inverted turnover means, for example, if you are having multiple turn, you are a manufacturing concern, you are having turnover, uh, different turnover, wherein one turnover is on account of which your inverted duty structure arises. That turnover you need to take, divide by the total turnover. Adjusted total turnover means the total turnover of the company. For example, that you have turnover of 1000 CR, 200 CR is of 200 CR is of particular product in which the rate of input is higher than the rate of output, resulting into inverted duty structure. Then 200 CR you need to consider as inverted, divide by the total turnover of 1000 CR, multiplied by the net ITC of only goods. Now from this we have to deduct the tax payable on inverted supply of goods and services. Tax payable on inverted means whatever figure we have mentioned here of turnover, we need to deduct the tax payable on such goods and services classified as inverted duty structure multiplied by net ITC, means net ITC of goods divided by net ITC of goods plus goods and services. Now, this amendment was made in line with the judgment of VKC Footstep. The Supreme Court recommended the Council to rectify this formula because earlier only directly the tax payable on inverted supply was to be reduced. This amendment was enforced by notification number 14 with effect from 5/7/2022. Whether this amendment is curative, clarificatory, or is it applicable to prior period also, we will see in the upcoming slide. So what are the documents that are required, particularly with respect to the claim of inverted duty refund? So first is the declaration under third proviso to section 54(3) and 54(3)(2). After that, an undertaking under 16(2)(c) and 42(2), which says that in case of any erroneous sanction of refund, we will pay back the government the amount of erroneous refund along with interest. After that, statement 1A, wherein the detail of input and output services for which refund is being claimed is mentioned. Next is self-declaration under Rule 89(2)(L) in case the refund claim is less than 2 lakh, or CA certificate in case of 89(2)M if the refund claim is 2 lakh. So technically this certificate is not required because 54 section excludes that in this case certificate is not required. Only by way of a circular number 125 wherein there is an erroneous drafting, that this circular is required under 125. So many times I receive a practical query that whether this certificate is required or can the officer insist to submit. My answer to the same is that practically the officer cannot insist because this is not required as per the provisions of the GST law, and we should fight for it that this certificate is not required to be submitted. Copy of GST to be in the statement of invoices in Annexure B, only for the input goods. Now we receive few more queries wherein people ask that whether one-to-one correlation is required. So many times the query comes that few products, means my output rate is 12%, few products are at, I am procuring at 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. So can government officials deny that or your inverted duty structure is only for the higher rate, means 18% and 28% purchase? Or sometimes the officers say that sir, आपकी आउटपुट सेल अगर 12% की है तो जो इनपुट 18 और 28 वाले हैं वही हम लोग अलाउ करेंगे अंडर द इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर, जो जो 5 और 12 वाले हैं वो हम लोग अलाउ नहीं करेंगे. So whether this proposition is correct, to resolve the same, government itself, the council has come up and issued a circular wherein a clear-cut example is given, wherein it is said that suppose a manufacturing process involves the use of an input A, which attracts a GST rate of 5%, and input B attracting a GST rate of 18%, to manufacturing a product which is output Y at the rate of 12%. Now, the refund of accumulated ITC in this situation above will be available under 54(3) of the CGST Act, read with the Rule 89(5), which prescribes the formula for the maximum refund amount permissible in such situation. Further assume that applicant supplies the output Y having value of 3000 during the relevant period for which the refund is being claimed. Therefore, the turnover of the inverted duty supply of goods and services will be 3000. Since the applicant has no other outward supply, his adjusted turnover will be 3000. If we assume that input A having a value of 500 and input B having a value of 2000 have purchased in the relevant period of manufacture of Y, then the net ITC shall be 385 and the refund of 360 rupees will be eligible. Now, the query resolved here is that there is no one-to-one correlation required between input and output. You can very well claim the all inputs 5%, 12%, 12%, 18%, and if you're ultimately resulting in the accumulation of credit due to the manufacturing process, then you will be eligible for the refund. One more clarification was issued by the government that in case that rate of goods change, for example, mobile was earlier taxable at 28%. Now it is taxable at 18%. So just because there are different rate of tax at different point of time, can you claim the refund for the same? The answer is clear no. Inverted duty structure is applicable wherein the rate of input is greater than output. Only because of different points of time you are not eligible for refund. So in our example, if the GST rate reduces on particular commodity on particular different point of time, you will not be eligible for the refund. Now, what is the effect of this amendment? In the previous slides, we shared that there is an amendment in the formula that earlier entire tax payable was getting reduced. Now tax payable multiplied by net ITC divided by net ITC of goods and services getting reduced. So what is the effect of this amendment? So I have taken one example wherein inverted turnover is of 1 crore subject to 5% GST. Without inverted turnover, that is 2 crore, is subject to 18% GST. Total ITC of goods is 18 lakhs and total ITC of services is 10 lakhs. Now A, which is my inverted turnover, is 1 crore. B, which is my without inverted turnover, is 2 crore. Total turnover is 1 plus 2, 3 crore. So adjusted turnover is 3 crore here. After that, tax payable on the inverted duty structure, which is 5 lakh, means 1 crore into 5%, 5 lakh. And 18 lakh pertains to the ITC of the goods. So if I consider that, then prior period the inverted refund of rupees 1 lakh was getting eligible. Now this formula after amendment, this side remains the same. Here the main change is that 5 lakh tax payable multiplied by 18 lakh of ITC on input of goods divided by ITC of input plus input services, which is 18 plus 28. So my refund amount has significantly increased from 1 lakh to 2,78,571. So we can effectively see that by amending the formula, it is in our favor and the proportionate of credit of goods is entirely allowed, which was earlier blocked. Now another query comes is whether two refund applications can be filed for the same period. So if you are exporting particular goods which is falling under inverted duty structure, so earlier the pump were under the inverted duty structure. Now if you export the goods with payment of tax, then refund of only 12% would be applicable and would be granted to you. If you export without payment of tax, then the entire refund of 18% would be applicable. to you. So I have taken one example that purchase at 100 rupees and at 18% and export sales is at 12%. So you will be getting a refund of only 12 rupees here. If you go for particularly inverted refund, without payment of tax refund, then entire ITC of 18 rupees would be eligible for refund. So yesterday we had seen three scenarios. First scenario was in case you are having much capital goods, then it would be better to go for with payment of tax for the encashment of ITC. In case of SES industry, it would be better to go for LUT. In case of stock, it would be better to go for LUT. One more addition to the same, if you are having inverted duty structure, it would be always better to go without payment of tax for the refund. You can always suggest to a client in case there is inverted duty structure to go for the refund under LUT. So till now we have discussed the formula of inverted duty structure, which is inverted turnover divided by total turnover multiplied by net ITC of goods less the tax payable on such inverted duty goods multiplied by the net ITC of goods divided by the net ITC of goods plus services. We have seen the practical example how the amounts are calculated. Now we move on to the second part, which are the important judgments. So a landmark judgment of VKC Footstep, wherein it was argued that refund of input service, denial of input services, and allowing only input goods refund is totally beyond law. But the same argument was reversed by Supreme Court, and it was held that only refund of input goods is to be allowed, and it is well within the law for the government to allow such refund only. So input services is clearly out of the ambit for the inverted duty structure refund. This is a word of caution because there is one AR wherein the case of supply of edible oil, wherein if in major the product remains the same, then you won't be eligible for the refund of inverted duty structure. So in this case, what used to happen is that oil, edible oil, was purchased and they were packed used in the container. So whether only the packing material which is there and which is only the 10% of the total cost or 5% of the total cost, whether for this it would be translating into inverted refund. So this double AR denied. So I have taken this judgment because we should know that what are the different views that can be of particular situation. So in this case, they held that the assessee is not eligible for the refund as the major input and major output are the same. So it is a very important task to establish particular thing whether it falls under the inverted refund category or not. Yes. So this is an important judgment of our Honorable Gujarat High Court, which is a very recent judgment. And based on this, this is the master judgment based on which another judgment has also come in the favor of assessee. So it was argued before the court that this amendment in the formula, which is allowing more refund. So as in our example also, we saw that earlier only 1 lakh was eligible. After the amendment, 2,75,000 something was eligible for the refund. So whether this amendment is prospective with effect from the 5/7/2022 or retrospective, whether the refund claims already sanctioned before, can they claim the additional refund amount which has been granted by this notification amendment? So earlier I had filed claim for 1 lakh. Now after this amendment, if I am filing the claim, I am eligible for 2,75,000. So can government create such bias and inequality for two particular classes of assessee. So one who is filing late claim would be benefit by the more refund. One who had filed in time and claimed the refund would be eligible for only 1 lakh rupees refund. The court intervened and allowed that this is not clarificatory, it is curative amendment, and hence the refund, additional refund would be granted in this case. So one for that balance 1,75,000 also, if you file within time, it would be allowed. And this amendment has to be taken retrospectively, though government had issued a circular also for this, saying that this would be applicable prospective. But still, you can claim the refund, and it can be this form, the revised refund can be claimed retrospectively also. So it is an important judgment of MS Asian Meditech Limited versus Union of India 2024 VIL 1273 Gujarat High Court. Based on this, second judgment was issued, which is in 2025 of Teals Agro, wherein again it was held that the benefit of the formula should be allowed to the assessees. So if there is any additional refund claim, you can file and get from the government. So these two are the important judgments for the refund of inverted duty structures. So with this, we complete our first category of today's refund, which is inverted. So all will be agreeing with me that for refund, we need patience. So, and we get refund only when we keep patience and comply in all terms correctly, because it involves the entire process of verification to establish before the authority that this particular case is falling under the category of inverted duty refund is itself a big task, because it is very difficult to establish. Reason being that authority will always say that your case is not an inverted duty case. You have only accumulated because of stock or something like that. But we need to effectively establish that this case is my manufacturing concern. I am having a manufacturing concern. Further, all inputs and outputs are correctly classified, and hence my case is correctly falling under the inverted duty structure. Moving on with the another category for today's session, it is deemed export refund. Now, what is the meaning of deemed export? Deemed export under section 239 of CGST Act means the goods or as may be notified under section 147. Now, whether any notification has been issued? Yes. Notification number 48 has been issued, wherein following are the goods that have been declared as supply under the deemed export. First is supply of goods by a registered person under the advance authorization. So, if you are supplying goods to a person holding advance authorization, then your supply will be considered as supply for the deemed export. Second is supply of capital goods by a registered person against the EPCG license holder. If your recipient is the holder of a EPCG license, then it would be considered as a supply for the deemed export. Third is supply of goods by a registered person to the EOU, means the export oriented unit, then it will be considered as a supply for deemed export. Fourth is supply of gold by a bank or PSU in notification 50 as against the advance authorization. Now, this definition has been clearly prescribed that if you are supplying to particularly this category of goods, then this category of recipient, then only your supply would be considered as deemed export. One interesting thing to note in this particular case of deemed export is that for deemed export, anyone can claim, means the supplier or the recipient both have an option to claim the refund. Now, you might be questioning, your question must be arising that how is it possible that both can claim? It would result in double benefit. So the answer is one who bears the burden of tax will get the refund. So, for example, in this case, firstly, the supplier would have to discharge the tax. For example, a 1 crore machinery is being sold. 18 lakhs is GST. So in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B of the supplier, 1 crore 18 lakh has to be shown and the amount of 18 lakh GST has to be paid to the government. Now, in this case, two scenarios can arise. The supplier will get 1 crore 18 lakh from the recipient, or he will get only the basic amount of 1 crore from the recipient, and 18 lakhs he would pay to the government from his pocket. So if in scenario 1, if the supplier is getting 1 crore 18 lakh for the supply, then he has effectively passed on the burden to the recipient. So the recipient can claim the refund in this case. And if he gets only 1 crore from the supplier gets only 1 crore from the recipient. That means the 18 lakhs that he paid in his 1 and 3B, the burden is not passed to the recipient, and hence he will be eligible for the refund. So it in this category of refund only and only the option lies whether the recipient or the supplier can claim the refund. One who bears the burden of tax can claim the refund. So what is the meaning of advance authorization? It means an authorization under DGFT Trade Policy 2015 to 20 for import or domestic procurement or inputs on pre-import basis of physical export. So earlier there was a misconception that you can only procure, means you can only import goods under the advance license or a EPCG. Only then the benefit would be available. After GST, even the local procurement is allowed. So if your client is planning to set up a plant and ultimately the goods that are going to be manufactured are to be exported, then you can effectively suggest this solution to them that you purchase the capital goods, because capital goods refund is anyways not allowed in export also, in inverted also, and nowhere in entire GST the refund of capital goods will be allowed. So it will result in your permanent cost. So you can effectively suggest to your clients that for particularly capital goods, you can obtain this EPCG license, and after satisfaction of the condition for the export goods, you can effectively get the refund of the entire tax paid on GST for the procurement of the machinery on day one. So it is always advisable to give this solution to the client that in case of export oriented unit or EPCG license, you can procure the machinery under the EPCG and get the full benefit of GST on the day one. Now it is between the supplier and the recipient to agree who will bear the burden of tax and get the refund. Now, what is the difference between the supply to SEZ and deemed export? Supply to SEZ means it is the supply to the SEZ unit, public developer. Only the supplier can claim the refund as the recipient are treated outside the country. So in case of supply to SEZ, only the supplier to SEZ will be eligible for refund. Whereas in case of deemed export, both the supplier and the recipient can claim the either or can claim the refund. Who has borne the burden of tax will be eligible for the refund. Now, what is the procedure? for the claiming of refund under deemed export. It is prescribed under Circular number 14/2017, wherein this entire transaction has to be intimated both to the jurisdictional officer in charge of the registered supplier, jurisdiction officer of the recipient, and to the registered supplier himself. So, if we practically understand this situation, firstly, a PO will be issued to the supplier by the buyer of the machinery. Then the supplier will issue the invoice and send the machinery. The machinery will be installed, and once the installation is done, the refund procedure can be done. So there are two intimations that needs to be given to the GST authorities. First is pre-intimation and second is post-intimation. So pre-intimation is in form A, wherein you need to intimate to the officer prior to the supply under deemed export. Firstly, to the registered supplier, jurisdictional officer of the registered supplier, and jurisdictional GST officer of the such specified unit. Now, I would like to highlight I would show you the circular detail. So this is the is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
So this is the circular number 14, wherein the entire procedure is prescribed. So this is the format of the form A that I'm talking about, the prior intimation that has to be given. In this, the intimation number, which is 1, and LOP number means the letter of approval number of the EPCG license oblique the license that has been granted needs to be given. Further, the detail of HSN and the sanction number of the license is to be given. So this is the format of the pre-intimation in form A, along with the PO and the license copy needs to be submitted to the jurisdictional officer of the supplier and the recipient. Once the machinery is received, then we need to intimate in form B along with the tax invoice copy that these goods have been received. Now I'm sharing the format of form B. Form B is prescribed in the same circular, wherein the detail of the supplies received, its HSN, and detail of the jurisdiction of both the officer needs to be given. So this is the format of form B, wherein the name, address, and GST of the registered person supplying, jurisdictional GST of the such registered person supplying the thing, invoice number of the register means the invoice under which the machinery is supplied, details of the supplies received, details of the amount of GST paid by the supplier, and date of sending the endorsed copy. Means in this case, the proof document would be once you share the details of particularly that invoice is received and it is endorsed, it would be the proof that the machinery is installed. Even certain officer ask for a chartered engineer installation certificate. So we need to prove that the machinery was supplied and the same has been installed. Once the same is established, then only we will be eligible for the refund. So for inverted for this deemed export refund, we have seen till now that supplier or the recipient who has borne the burden of tax can claim the refund. It can be either or. the procedure has been set that pre-intimation and post-intimation needs to be given. Pre-intimation in Form A and post-intimation in Form B, wherein the details of receipt and the PO has been shared. So now we we have completed two types of refund today. First is inverted duty refund and second is deemed export. So inverted, we saw that in case of input rates being higher than the output rate, we will be eligible for refund. Formula was discussed wherein A into B divided by C means inverted turnover divided by total turnover multiplied by the net ITC of goods less the net ITC of goods multiplied by net ITC of multiplied by minus the tax payable multiplied by the net ITC of goods divided by the net ITC of goods plus services. There are certain list of block item under inverted refund was discussed. Then after we have seen the deemed export. So effectively till now, combining the detail for yesterday and today's session, we have completed zero rated supply, supplied with payment, without payment, supplied to SEZ. Today we have completed export inverted refund and deemed export refund. So today would be more of a practical session wherein I would like to answer the queries of the participant wherein they are facing, because this is the most litigious area of GST refund wherein inverted duty refunds are rejected on many grounds. I have tried to cover the maximum grounds, but if still there are any queries, I would be happy to answer them all. So are there any queries for today?
Yes. Dear participants, we are open to all the queries you have. We can take it one by one. I go to the Q&A section where there is a query. Yes, we would prefer the queries first from today's session. And apart from that, yesterday's session, if there is any query, we can take. And so there is a question in Q&A that my client has paid GST for FY 22-23 through DRC 03, and at the same time buyer has also paid GST through DRC 03. How should I claim refund for the same? So for one payment, both buyer and supplier both has paid GST through DRC 03. First of all, the question would be whether it is eligible for refund or not.
So this case seems to be a case of bogus supply, wherein the department has forcefully asked the recipient to pay the refund, means pay the credit that he has claimed. So there are multiple judgments in this type of refund, wherein if you have been forced to pay just because the supplier did not pay the tax, then you can always claim a refund. So the recipient would be eligible because he was forced to pay, even though he had given the amount to the supplier also, but still supply on account of fault and default of the supplier, he was asked to pay. So government cannot be benefited. So this would be a wrongly collected tax by the government, and hence it would be eligible for the refund.
Okay. Yes, so it is clear that who can ask for that refund as well.
Recipient.
Yeah.
Recipient will be asking because he has given, so it is an unjust on the part of the recipient. He had originally given the tax amount to the supplier also, and again he was asked to reverse the credit, so he has reversed the credit also. This then it would be double charging of tax, so which is not allowed.
So there is a question. Hello, sir. I have filed GSTR1 and 3B by mistake. Bill of domestic turnover is been uploaded where there is no domestic turnover at the time of refund application. Export turnover and domestic turnover seen less refund now next month. There is a query written in the chat box. If you can read, because it's a longer one. Urvang
Facts are
Doshi.
not clear. If the participant is present, we can take face to face.
Yeah. So Purvang Doshi, if you are available, please raise the hand. I will open the mic for you. Yes, Purvang, ask your question. Unmute yourself first.
Hello, sir. I am audible.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir, the query is when the domestic bill is wrongly included in one GSTR 1 and 3B, so the officer can rejected the partial claim of our export turnover. Then what can I do to refund the same?
I'm not getting your query. So can you
So
be
Purvang,
little
what
bit
I
elaborate?
understand.
Can you elaborate? Yes.
So
Hello.
Purvang, you can ask in Gujarati also, no issue.
Okay.
Jaykishan will understand it.
એટલે સર રિફંડ એપ્લિકેશન કરીને એની અંદર કે આપણે જે પ્રમાણે કેલ્ક્યુલેશન કર્યું એ પ્રમાણે પ્રપોર્શનેટલી થાય ડોમેસ્ટિક ટર્નઓવરનું.
Right.
તો એની જગ્યાએ એવું છે કે ડોમેસ્ટિકમાં છે જ નહીં ટર્નઓવર, પણ આ શો કરી દીધું છે. તો હવે આપણે એને નેક્સ્ટ મંથમાં રિવર્સ કરીશું. તો રિવર્સમાં નેગેટિવ લાયબિલિટી તરીકે GSTR 3B નેગેટિવમાં અત્યારે દેખાશે કે નહીં દેખાઈ શકાય એમ? પહેલી વસ્તુ એ.
તમે ઓરિજિનલ રિફંડ એપ્લિકેશન કરી છે કે કઈ રીતના છે એમ?
નથી ઊભી રાખી છે, કરી નથી હજી એપ્લિકેશન જાણે કે.
હા,
તો હવે
બરાબર છે.
નેક્સ્ટ મંથમાં આપણે ડોમેસ્ટિક ટર્નઓવરની ક્રેડિટ નોટ રેઝ કરીને ઝીરો કરી દઈએ.
હા,
પછી હું પાર્સલ રિફંડ ક્લેમ કરવાનું કે પછી આખું રિફંડ ક્લેમ થઈ શકે એમ?
સો તમારું બિઝનેસ હવે કેલ્ક્યુલેશન
Jaykishan, I'd request you to answer in English so that all the participants can understand.
So I will repeat his query that yes, by mistake in 1 month he is not having any domestic turnover, only the export turnover. By mistake he has shown 10 lakh rupees of domestic turnover. I am resuming this fact. In next month he is reversing the amount of domestic turnover via credit note, and can he claim refund only because he will be eligible? For example, 10 lakh is the domestic turnover by mistake which is shown, 10 lakh is the export turnover. So if he claims the refund now, then he will be getting a proportionate refund of only 50%. But in actual, he should be eligible for the 100% of refund. So whether he can take a benefit of this in next month? So answer would be that you can combine the refund application for 2 periods. So effectively, your adjusted total turnover will be equal to the export turnover. So according to me, you should combine the refund application for 2 periods. First period in which you have shown by mistake plus the second period in which you have reversed the same. So if you combine the 2 period, your adjusted turnover would be the same, and hence there would be no effect.
I would like to ask a side question as I can read it. So whether if it is wrongly shown, if it is not the actual domestic turnover, right? So whether there is need to issue a credit note or you can just do through some other manner like B2B amendment or something like that.
Means you have shown GSTR 1, no? In GSTR 1, and you must have also issued the e-invoice.
Yeah.
For the
So
same.
it seems like the case.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have done the entire, you have shown the entire sale. Now you are saying that it is not my sale. Then how can it be reduced through amendment? It has to be through CN only.
There is another question. For inverted duty refund, is manufacturing mandatory?
Yes, 100% manufacturing.
Okay. There's a question, while filing statement 3, the invoices for which payment is received in next financial year needs to be excluded.
Statement 3, I guess this question pertains to the export refund.
Prajakta, if you are there, please raise a hand. I will allow you to ask the question. Yeah. Yes, Prajakta, ask the question.
Sir, I've been filing this statement 3. This is my third or fourth time for one service related export, and I'm continuously getting error that date cannot exceed the period for which refund is applicable. Document date cannot be greater than to the return period is the specific query. So basically, what I have there are 2-3 invoices in March for which payment is received in April of next financial year. So is that a reason that I'm getting queries?
So you can file a combined refund application, try and file for March and April. Then this query must not arise.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Yes.
Yes,
Thank
clubbing
you.
of financial year is allowed. I had clearly mentioned yesterday also in my session.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
So Nitin Khode has shared that I was not in the meeting for a few minutes. So Mr. Nitin, in your case, when buyer and your client supplier both have paid GST, so Jaykishan has rightly said that who is Jaykishan, if you can repeat the answer if
Yes,
possible.
the person who has means the recipient who has paid the double payment to the supplier also first at the time of transaction and second time during the DRC, he will be eligible for the refund.
So participant, do you have any other question? If yes, if you can raise the hand, I'll allow you to speak and ask the question. If not, you can type in the chat box. Yeah, so that is Mohit Hussain Ansari. Yeah, you can ask the question. Unmute yourself.
સર એક્સક્લુઝિવ એક્સપોર્ટ ટર્નઓવર છે અને પરચેસ જે થાય છે 0.01 માં થાય છે તો હું એક્સપોર્ટના બિલમાં 18% વિથ પેમેન્ટ ઓફ ટેક્સ કરીને રિફંડ ક્લેમ કરી શકું?
Can you be clear? The voice was not clear.
So
Did you get Caesar by the question?
Yeah. So I think he's asking that he's doing entirely export, and for inputs he is getting 0.1% invoices. So whether he can claim 18% with payment of tax 18% and claim refund.
How is it possible? Is 0.1 you are getting the condition of getting the supplies under 0.1 receipt is itself that you will export under LUT. So you will be maximum getting the refund of the 0.1% the tax which you have paid. Other than that, you will not be eligible.
ઓકે થેન્ક યુ.
Yes. Any other question? Yeah, Purvang has raised the hand. Yes, Purvang, you can ask the question.
Yes, sir. One of the officers said your मतलब આપણે જે હમણાં વાત કન્ટિન્યુ હતી ને એમાં જ કે એ જે 3BU માઇનસમાં જે બતાવશે ને 100 તો એ મારે નેગેટિવ ટેક્સ લાયબિલિટીમાં ઊભી રહેશે એ અમાઉન્ટ જે રિફંડની અમાઉન્ટ રહેશે ને કોઈ પણ સમજો મારે અત્યારે નેક્સ્ટ ક્રેડિટ નોટ મેં રેઝ કરીશ હું નેક્સ્ટ વખતે છે એની તો હું એ હવે રિફંડ ક્લેમ નહીં કરી શકું જ્યારે મારું આગળ થશે ટર્નઓવર કોઈ બી ડોમેસ્ટિકનું ત્યારે એ અમાઉન્ટ યુઝ થશે એવું કે છે એમ તો એવું હોઈ શકે કે એવું ના હોય એમ
There seems to be practical difficulty in the facts because I don't think that this type of thing would happen. So I had given the prior solution to this. There is some lack in facts. So effectively, yes.
So Nitin Khode is there. I'm allowing you to talk. Yes, Nitin, ask the question. Yes, Nitin, you can ask the question. Unmute yourself. Okay, so I think your question is under which section and what is the procedure to refund the claim in case the question where supplier and the buyer case. Yeah.
So the only blanket category that is available is any other.
Yeah.
So you can try and submit a DRC copy that this has been paid twice, and you can try. We can always approach this to the jurisdictional officer for this.
So there is a question till date export with IGST done. There is a huge accumulated ITC balance. Can TP claim refund by making export under LUT? If yes, then how time limit will be computed? This question sounds a little bit like you are doing export with IGST. and still there is accumulated ITC balance.
So this effectively, I think it can be the case of inverted refund. So as I highlighted in today's session also, that in case you are having an inverted turnover, if your rate of taxation falls under inverted, it is always advisable to go for without payment of tax. So if you go with payment of tax, then this would result in the permanent accumulation of credit. So as I gave an example that if you are in pump industry and the permanent 18% is the input and output is 12%. So if you go on exporting with payment of tax, then 6% would be accumulated. If you go without payment of tax, then entire 18% of input would be refunded.
There is another question. We filed refund for the period of December 24 for EOU and refund also sanctioned, but one invoice was omitted in refund application. So is there any other facility for that invoice refund? One invoice missed while filing the refund application.
Any other category? You can
Okay.
make a supplementary claim. So there are certain judgments for that also, that in case there is a supplementary claim, it is always to be done through any other way, because system won't allow you to file this application for the same period. And so for example, I've claimed a refund for March 24, and if I miss any invoice, the system won't allow me to file once again for the March 24 refund.
So now I have a question that what care needs to be taken in inverted duty structure, because there are I've seen there are claims which are being rejected, and inverted duty structure at times go through kind of a scrutiny from the department side, where whether the invoice belongs to the inputs or input services or capital goods, and some instances are found that it is being seen from the perspective of doubt also. So what is your advice for filing a better refund application under inverted duty structure?
So first golden rule which I follow for filing inverted duty refund is I check that whether I have correctly classified the outward supply as 18% or not. Means that the particular rate or not. Because sometimes what happens, we go before the department thinking that our classifications are right. And if department comes up that your classification is wrong, then it would be a reverse scenario for us, and we will be inviting a trouble to ourselves. For example, 12% we are claiming an inverted duty structure, and if the actual HSN rate applicable is 18, then reverse liability of 6% will be casted on us. So firstly, in depth verify the actual rate of outward that is applicable, whether it has been correctly classified. Second step is the bifurcation. If chapter 99 comes, it is obviously that it is services, and other than that, capital goods has to be correctly bifurcated and goods has to be correctly bifurcated. Once this all things are done, and you have seen that there is a no negative, it does not fall in the negative list that has been provided by the circular. And once all these checks are done, then only you should be proceeding with the filing of the refund application.
Yes, and there are few cases that I have personally faced, and for the participants, I would like to ask this question: that in case of few manufacturers, like there are plastic manufacturers or someone who are into fibers and all these things. So at them, what they do is they buy raw material, and at times they have their friends or related parties or whatsoever, and they sell the raw material also, which is having a different rate than their final output, right? So technical fiber is into 5%, but the plastic granules is under 18%, right? So in that case, if the manufacturer sells plastic granules to some other manufacturer, what will happen in that case? Shall I repeat the question?
Yes, can you repeat last part of it?
Yeah. So a manufacturer who is into manufacturing of textile, which is obtained from plastic. Now, plastic granules is 18% item and fabric is 5% item. So that manufacturer, now what he did is he sold the plastic granules to some other manufacturer.
Hmm.
right? Is there shortage or something whatsoever it is? So
Hmm.
what will
Hmm.
happen when I will be filing the inverted duty case? Now there would be all 5% sales, but there would be one or two instances of 18% sales. Again, it's not a manufacturing activity; it's a trading activity, right? So what will happen in such cases, and to what extent department can take you?
So firstly, as I said in the formula itself says that you have to consider the inverted. So in this case, particularly this trading amount would be excluded from the turnover. So inverted turnover would be only the 5% fabric that you have manufactured divided by the total turnover, means proportionate would be taken. So if your 100 rupees is the turnover, 20 is 20 and 80 is the manufacturing one. So 80 divided by 100 multiplied by the ITC of entire ITC would be taken and proportionate refund would be allowed.
Okay. So
So
doing
this you have to
such
exclude from the inverted turnover.
Okay, so doing such things may affect the total amount of refund in adverse
Yes,
manner, right?
yes, yes, 100%.
Okay.
As I said in the early in the first only that this inverted refund is only applicable for the manufacturing. It is not applicable for the trading.
There is a question from Asmita Jain. Can you repeat the explanation with example of trading?
Means okay. So trading turnover needs to be excluded from the inverted refund claim. So that I'm sharing the formula once again. Is my this
Yes, it
formula
is.
visible? Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
So in this case of trading and manufacturing turnover, only that manufacturing turnover would be considered as inverted, and you have to in adjusted total turnover, both turnover would be considered.
Okay.
So step one is bifurcate the turnover into the inverted and total turnover.
Okay. So Arvind Vekaria has requested to share judgment of EOU refund for invoice was omitted or missed. If uh, Jaykishan can share, he will share tomorrow session. It's fine, right? Jaykishan, if you can
Okay.
find the same. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So Arvindji, your judgment will be shared tomorrow for sure. So I don't see any further question in the chat box. So Jaykishan, any final words for today's session if people want to take home something, and what would be next in the tomorrow's session?
So next would be tomorrow. It would be the cash refund and other residuary types of refund. So I would request you all to bring your queries because tomorrow would be the last session concluding this entire series. So if there are any queries, even if pertaining to particularly this any type of refund, I would be happy to answer. So thank you.
Thank you,
All.
Jaykishan, for today's wonderful session and sharing your insight on this two things. There is Jitendra Chawda who has raised a hand and question if we can answer before concluding. So is writing, hello, refund of export with payment of tax after 21st January 2002. The application of Aadhaar authorization is reversed.
Application of our river means what is this query? I am not.
Yes, Jitendra, ask your question.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Please ask your question.
Question is that Aadhaar authorization for refund is compulsory from 21st January 22 by notification number 38 2021
Hmm.
and by with payment of export, the refund will automatically be credited to the client's account. Now department is asking that this is reversed. This would be reversed because the Aadhaar authentication is not made.
So, in nutshell, I feel the question is whether Aadhaar authentication notification is applicable in case of refund with payment of tax, where automatic route the refund is granted. So,
Yes, it is applicable. Aadhaar authentication is a must and it is required.
okay, even in case when custom is processing the refund, right?
Yes. So this is a procedural thing. So we cannot comment on this thing. If it has been notified and if this is required, then it would be required. So
Okay.
I won't comment on this.
Yeah. So thank you all the participants and see you tomorrow. The same Zoom link is applicable for tomorrow. Please come with all your queries written. And after tomorrow's session, Jaykishan would be happy to answer all your queries to the maximum possible extent. Thank you, Jaykishan, for today's session and also answering so many questions. We are ending.